We don't see many people, but it's great to have you all here tonight for different reasons. I'd like to welcome you to the Newman City Council regular meeting for December 8th, 2015. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and flag and remain standing for the invocation. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you bow your heads, please? Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight asking for your guidance in this council meeting as we consider the things that would affect our community. We also come tonight, Father, asking your special care and blessings on Councilmember Davis as she's recovering, and we ask that you speed that recovery so that she can rejoin us. Thank you for all you've done for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Could I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Davis. Graham.
Here.
Candia.
Here.
Day.
Here.
Mayor Martina.
Present. Okay, next item, the declaration of conflict of interest. There being none. Now we get to the highlight of the evening, ceremonial matters. And this is employee recognition. Soon.
Yes. Good evening, City Mayor and City Council members. It's a great honor for me to provide some update on how our two public works employees achieved last several months. As you know, the state of California has faced a lot of challenges. For example, the severe drought, hexavalent chromium issues, groundwater issue, water quality issues, etc. But however, in order to overcome those challenges, our public works staff worked really hard over the weekend and the extra time to achieve some additional water-related certificate, which qualify us the better. That means two employees achieve 5 certificates that allow us to run our water system more safely and efficiently. Our employee is Mr. Greg Stonebadger, our senior maintenance worker, and Mr. Rory Rocha, maintenance worker number 1. So, in addition to city's recognition on their achievement, surprisingly, the senator and the congressman want to join us to celebrate what they have achieved. It's really great. So, City Mayor, could you present this certificate
Okay,
for
we
them?
want to do it down here in front. You know, it's wonderful when this occasion takes place because the recognition that you're receiving today is extremely important to the city. We value your time. It's a wonderful thing. The certificate of appreciation is awarded to Greg Stonebadger in recognition of valuable contributions to the city of Newman for obtaining the water distribution D3 and D4 certificates and water treatment T2 certificate with the state of California. And congratulations. Thank you so much. It's very nice, the Senate. And here's Greg. It's for the City of Newman Public Works, Senior Maintenance Worker. On behalf of the California State Senate, I would like to honor you for your valuable contributions to the City of Newman Public Works for obtaining the water distribution certificates D3 and D4 and water treatment certificate T2 with the state of California. This is a great honor bestowed upon you and one for which you deserve to be most proud. You are to be commended for your outstanding accomplishment. Congratulations and best wishes, Senator Anthony Cannella. It's the same. It's the same thing. But this is from Congressman. Let's see, Representative Jeff Denham, 10th District, Congressional District. And it says, Greg, City of Newman, Department of Public Works, and on behalf of the U.S. House of Representatives, I'd like to commend you for obtaining water distribution D3 and D4 certificates and water treatment D2 certificates for the state of California. This is an outstanding contribution to the city and one for which you deserve to be most proud. You are to be commended for your outstanding achievements in your education. Congratulations and best wishes for continuing success.
Excellent.
This is really nice. I mean, this is a nice award for you gentlemen. Okay, certificate of appreciation. This certificate is awarded to Roy Rocha in recognition of valuable contribution to the city of Newman for obtaining the water distribution D3 certificate and water treatment D2 certificate with the state of California. I know I'm gonna read them again because I think it's important they hear from Roy Rocha, City of Newman Public Works, Maintenance Work Number 1. On behalf of the California State Senate, I would like to honor you for your valuable contributions to the City of Newman Public Works for obtaining the Water Distribution Certificate D3 and Water Treatment Certificate D2 with the state of California. This is a great honor bestowed upon you and one for which you deserve to be most proud. You are about to be commended for your outstanding accomplishments. Congratulations and best wishes, Senator Anthony Cannella. Special congressional recognition. Roy Rocha, City of Newman Public Works. On behalf of the United States House of Representatives, I would like to commend you on obtaining a Water District D3 certificate and a Water Treatment D2 certificate from the state of California. This is an outstanding contribution to the city and one for which you deserve to be most proud. You are to be commended for your outstanding achievement in your education. Congratulations and best wishes for continued success. And it's signed Representative Jeff Denham, 10th Congressional District. Well, you guys can all But you know, that is wonderful when you get recognition.
Mayor, if you don't mind 1 second. So I want to thank Greg and Rory. Most people don't know that, you know, these two gentlemen run our water department. And they make sure that when you turn that faucet on, the water's pouring out. And it's safe to drink. It's safe to take a shower. Those are important things. Those are the things that go unnoticed in our city. That when you flush the toilet, things disappear. When you turn on the shower, you can take a shower. I mean, those two guys right there are responsible for that, and they deserve a great big hand. So.
Thank you very much. Item 7, items from the public. This is the non-agenda items. I don't know if there's anyone tonight. Please go to the podium and your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Carson, and I'm the branch manager of the Newman Public Library here. I want to take a moment to let you know about some of our upcoming programs at the library, but before I do so, I would just like to share with you that I am going to be moving to the children's librarian position at the Salida branch. And I have my replacement here tonight. Her name is Pam Moore, and she is excited to be here, and she will take over as branch manager. And I would also like to let all of you know that I very much enjoyed working here with the City of Newman and getting to know all of our customers at the library. So thank you very much. So let me talk about some of our upcoming programs. Storytime is currently on break, and it will resume in January at 10 o'clock on Wednesday mornings. Our next Lego Day will be this Thursday, December 10 at 3:30. Build anything you like, and then your creations will be placed in our display case. Next Tuesday, December 15, we'll have a family food program. We'll be making edible reindeer using donuts, pretzels, and M&Ms. Our next children's craft is Saturday, December 19 at 1:30. We will be making snowflakes out of popsicle sticks and beads. Teens can stop by anytime this month to be creative with decorative washi tape. This tape creates a fun patterned look on items such as pencils and notebooks and anything else like that. As always, thanks to the Friends of the Library group for their support. And all of these free programs are brought to you through the 1/8 cent dedicated sales tax that supports the library. So please stop in and visit sometime. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the audience would like to? No one? This is, okay. Every meeting we do this, so anytime you have something you'd like to say, please come forward. Next item would be item 8. This is consent calendar. A, waive all readings of ordinance and resolutions except by title. B, approval of warrants. C, approval of minutes of the November 10th, 2015 meeting. D, report of appointment to fill vacancies for the on the Recreation Commission. And
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent calendar as is.
Second.
motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 3, oh, I'm sorry, 4 here and 1 absent. We'll get it right. Just- already said, okay. Item 9, public hearing. A, adopt resolution 2015, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
Evening, Mayor, council members. Before you tonight is another nuisance abatement. Abatement notices for property maintenance were sent out to several properties in accordance with ordinance 95-4, chapter 2, title 8-2-3. This notice informs property owners of the nuisance abatement procedures, their option, and their right to a public hearing, which would be tonight. It's anticipated that most property owners will abate these prior. Before you tonight, we have 2 properties, which are 625 Sweet Gum Lane and 1007 R Street. I have 4 slides available for you with pictures. I'm supposed to do this now. I forgot. So this will be the Sweet Gum Lane. You'll see the large bush in the front and one there growing onto the neighbor's driveway. And this was a complaint driven from neighbors. And then the next one will be of the R Street address, which is a fence falling down into the alleyway in the backyard. There is no fiscal impact, and I'll bring it back for you if you have any questions for me.
Any questions for the chief? Okay. This is a public hearing, so I'll open it to the public. Any comments? There being none, I bring it back to the council for direction.
I move that we adopt resolution next number 2015 declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 4 with 1 absent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see, we go to item 10, regular business. A, adopt resolution number 2015, next number, a resolution receiving and accepting the general purpose financial statement and Transportation Development Act audits for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015.
Evening, Mayor, council members. Before you tonight is a resolution to accept the financial statements for the 2014-15 fiscal year. Michelle Gallagher from the accounting firm of Clendon and Bird and Company is here to present their findings.
Thank you, Lou. Mayor, council members. Again, I'm Michelle Gallagher from Clendon and Bird Company. Again, I was your audit partner on this audit. We started in June and July to do our field work and our internal control testing. We wrapped up the field work up in September. We spent a couple more days here to do transactional testings to close out the year end. The opinion, once again, this year is unqualified. The internal control letter also, there's no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. So that is the highest level of assurance that you can get on your financial statements. There were no unusual journal entries other than what we'll discuss about the GASB 68 pension liability that had to be recorded this year. So I wanted to thank Lou and all of his staff for all of the help that they provided us, answering our questions and providing information. Once again, they did a great job this year, like they do every year. So it was a pretty smooth transition in terms of getting into the financial statements. The GASB 68 did cause a little bit more work. You'll notice that there's a few more pages this year of notes and schedules, which I'll kind of go over. So the majority of the liability that was booked this year, we had to do a prior period adjustment based off of the GASB 68 requirements of about $3.7 million of liability for the pension that you guys, your proportional share of the PERS liability. So we did all those adjustments. You'll notice that on pages 55 through 61 is a whole new set of notes that we are required to include. They are all standard notes that the California League of Governments gave us in a white paper to follow, along with the PERS actuarials that were given to us to follow. So it's all of the reporting of how the actuarial was determined and so on and so forth. You'll have to remember that these actuarials are based off of 6/30/14 information. CalPERS will always be a year behind going forward. This is an estimate of what your proportional share is. It will go down pretty much probably every single year, but it is a number that we have to now report. So we had that. That was pretty much the major change. Your new schedules are on pages 64 through 67. There will be more information going forward in years to come. Since this is the first year that we've had to do this, we have no comparables going back to see, what the changes were significantly. So if you have more questions about that and in detail, Lou would be the best one to ask those questions of, since he was the main driver of all of this. So other than that, we pretty much, again, had a great audit again this year. No findings, no management lender. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions? Wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course, we've got Lou, so he.
You're very lucky.
Thank you very much. That's great. Always good to be financially sound. Okay, regular business.
Mayor, we have a resolution with that
I'm
that we'd like
sorry.
you to consider on 10A.
I'm sorry. Okay, bring it back to the council for direction.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2015, next number, a resolution receiving and accepting the general purpose financial statement and Transportation Development Act audits for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried 4 ayes and 1 absent. Under regular business, item B, presentation regarding key findings of the recent community survey. And I guess that's Mr. Michael Holland.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, in late summer, around August, September, you authorized us to find a firm to conduct some community survey work to see what the general consensus was with respect to developing a community facilities district so that we could fund the construction and operations of a community pool. We identified FM3, who does a lot of the polling for and survey work for the League of California Cities. They were selected. In late October, early November, they conducted a survey both by telephone, landline, and cellular phone, and then also an online. 80% of those calls, 80% of those respondents were via either landline or cellular, and then just under 20% were through online survey. So we had just over 120 people respond to this survey, which is pretty good considering that the survey itself takes 12 to 15 minutes to do. So we were really happy to get that many people in there. We do have Rick Slars, who's from FM3, who's going to get on the phone with us and walk you through this survey and walk you through the PowerPoint presentation. And if you have any questions of him, we can get him on the line and walk you through that. So go ahead and get him on the line. as he's calling them on there, I think you're going to be, this was also presented to our community committee in November, and they saw the results, and as you can see, there's still strong support out there. There's obviously a delineation of who supports it and who doesn't, and so Rick will go through with the findings. So, and then after the presentation's over, I'll talk to you a little bit about what we're looking for from direction from you.
Rick, it's Mike Meyer at the City of Newman. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. You're on speakerphone and we're live in our meeting.
All right, great. Good evening, everyone.
I have your presentation up already.
Okay. Should I just get going, or
Yeah.
anyone want to?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Okay, so good evening, City Council members. Pleasure to be with you this evening. So I am going to review the results of the survey we conducted on behalf of the city last month. And at any time, if anyone has questions, please feel free to interrupt me or interject. I'm happy to answer anything you may have. Just going to give you a brief overview of how we conducted the survey. We conducted 121 interviews with City of Newman registered voters. The survey was conducted both via telephone, landline, and cell phones, and residents could take the survey online if they wished. Interviews were conducted in English and Spanish. Survey was conducted between October 21st and November 3rd. There's a margin of error as we go through the results. We'll go through them. Just something to keep in mind. And then due to rounding, not everything will always add up to 100%. Just start off with some major key findings before we get into the specific numbers. But overall, Newman voters generally have a good sense of their city being a nice place to live, offers high quality of life, and they're generally pleased with the job city government is doing, providing them with key services. Nevertheless, 2/3 of Newman residents think there's a significant need for additional funds for city services, and that's generally what we find in our research for communities throughout California, that while there may be satisfaction levels may differ, generally most voters think their local community has a need for funding to provide services at the local level. When we presented the respondents with a potential ballot measure for an aquatic center funded for the city, we got a solid 7 in 10 say they would vote in favor of a $148 parcel tax to build and operate the aquatic center. There are notable differences in how the respondents react. Women, voters of color, and those who have lived in the city for 20 or few years are more likely to vote in favor than sort of the opposite type of voters who are men, whites, and longer-term residents. And then specifically how voters think the funds should be used are to address the lack of recreation programs, to provide residents with more quality programming to benefit their community. But there's also a desire to know that these funds will be overseen, that there'll be accountability, and that local control will be required. So I'm just going to start going through the survey, some of how we ask the questions. So as I started earlier, most think the city of Newman offers a high quality of life. We asked this question, do you think, how would you rate the overall quality of life for residents? Excellent, good, fair, or only poor? And 26% say excellent, another 54% say pretty good overall quality of life for residents. So by a factor of more than 4 to 1, we have Newman voters saying things are excellent or pretty good in terms of the overall quality of life living in the city. In terms of the specific quality of services that the city provides, again, pretty good number of 60% saying excellent or good. Very few rating poorly. The darker sort of red is 33% is fair, but just 5% saying poor. And then in terms of the city officials managing the city budget, a third say excellent or good, 28% just fair, and 14% poor. But you can see a large percentage, 25%, say don't know. So, all in all, in terms of budget issues, this is generally what we find for local communities throughout California. But overall, these are pretty good numbers. Most people are pleased with the city and the quality of services they receive. In terms of the issues that are of concern to your respondents, you can see at the top we asked a whole host of issues and asked the respondents to say if they were extremely serious problem, very serious problem somewhat, or not a serious problem at all. Now, obviously, this is not just Newman, but throughout California, the statewide drought is the top-of-mind issue across the state, whether we're in the Central Valley, whether we're in Northern California, Southern California, anywhere we are in the state, this is the most dominant issue. And you can see that's true here in the city of Newman as well. 46%, almost half, say it's an extremely serious problem. Combine that with the very serious, and we've got 90% of your community saying it's a very highly serious problem. But as we move down the list, you can see that the difference is pretty stark, but still a fair amount of concern about crime, gangs, and drugs. Obviously not as intense as the drought, but there's a fair amount of voters, almost half, saying it's an extremely or very serious problem. The lack of quality recreational programs for residents, particularly local youth, again, less severe of an intense problem than the drought, obviously, but it's about on par with crime, gangs, and drugs. So those two issues are definitely something that your voters are concerned about, as well as, then the numbers start dropping down pretty steadily, particularly the level of intensity with the darker red of extremely serious problem. Economy seems to be less serious of a concern. If we had done this survey, say 3-4 years ago, the number for the economy would probably likely be very much higher. We do see, even though it's sort of been a slow and not necessarily robust economic recovery, things do seem to be picking up. We're seeing less concern expressed about the condition of the economy at the local level. In terms of the amount you pay in city taxes, again, also, you have 6 in 10 who say it's at least somewhat serious problem, but again, it's not a highly intense problem. When you compare it to something like the drought, it's very low, much lower on the sort of level of intensity as a big issue that people are concerned about. Similarly, the condition of streets and roads, and then it's sort of last on this list is actually waste and inefficiency in city government, with only 11% saying extremely serious problem. So this is generally, not an issue most voters are thinking about, and fewer than half consider it a problem at all. In terms of perception of need for additional funds, here you can see you've got 2/3, almost 70%, in fact, 68% saying there's a great or some need for additional funds in the city of Newman to provide residents the services that they need and want. In comparison, just a quarter are saying little or no real need, and in fact, that 13% are the only people who are saying there's no real need. So again, this is indicative of what we see in a lot of communities where there is a perceived need. Local government needs additional funds to address local services. Just to give you a sense of demographically some of the differences I mentioned at the top, in red here you can sort of see where the numbers spike a little bit on that great need. It is with voters of color. A majority, in fact, say the city has a great need. Women more than men, so there is a gender gap. 46% of women think there's a great need. And then, not surprisingly, to a certain extent, party affiliation. Democrats are more likely to see a great need compared to independents and Republicans. We find that pretty consistent across the state when we talk about services. Democrats are going to be more concerned about services and funding than Republicans, certainly. But there's really, those are the key differences. You can see by age it's pretty similar. And then the last place, we interviewed all registered voters in your community, but we just want to show you in terms of turnout, that last group on this list, the flags, those are the number of times people have voted in a November election over the last 4 November elections. So regardless of whether you just voted once over the last 4 November elections or you voted in every single one of those 4, not a big difference in terms of perceived need of funding. Moving on to the ballot measure, on this slide is the text of the ballot measure. we worked with your city staff, including city council, city attorney, to develop a ballot language that meets the criteria, the 75 words that would have to appear on the ballot to describe the measure. You can see it's got a title, it provides some description of what the measure would do, then provides the tax rate and the oversight and accountability provisions that would be required to ensure the funds are directed as promised. And so voters heard this or read it if they took the survey online, and then were asked to vote. And when they're asked to vote, we ask them not just, are you going to vote yes or no, but a degree of yes or no, whether it's definitely, probably, or leaning towards yes or no. And you can see here a total of 70% say yes. It is worth noting that 5% say they are initially undecided, but then if we ask them, well, do you lean towards yes or no, 5% say, I lean towards yes. And this is important to note because this measure would require a 2/3 vote to be approved, as it is a special purpose parcel tax. On the no side, you've got just 20% saying definitely no, and that's a key number, thinking about the 2/3, because the no side, if they're just getting 30% or so, that's making it pretty difficult to pass these types of measures. And in this community, we've got about 2 out of 10 who are saying definitely no right off the bat. But on the other hand, initially just presenting them that language, you've got a majority saying definitely yes. So there is a high degree of support for this measure, but again, the challenge of passing these measures is rather high, with a 2/3 vote needed. So while you do start in a good place, it's obviously, regardless of any type of these measures, is always a high hurdle to clear. Just going to walk through some of the demographics and how the vote breaks down a little bit. And what we see here in terms of the perceived need correlates highly with Newman voters' response to the ballot measure itself. So if you are a Newman resident who perceives there to be a great need or some need for additional funding for the city, 8 and 10, 80% are voting yes, whereas if you think there is only a little or no real need, a majority are voting no. So obviously perception of need, perceived, does the city have the funds it needs, plays a big role in whether or not voters are thinking this is an appropriate measure for the city. In terms of what I mentioned up front between gender, ethnicity, and age, there are clear distinctions across those three profiles of voters. Women, voters of color, and younger voters, those being under the age of 50, more than 8 and 10 vote yes on this measure. Big gender gap, over 30 points between men and women on the level of support. Again, nearly 30 or 20 points, excuse me, between whites and voters of color. Still 60% of whites voting yes, but much more of the communities of color voting in favor. And then younger respondents, those under the age of 50, are at 81%, a 20-point difference between the voters over the age of 50. And all of these are generally conform to what we see on these types of local funding measures. It's generally going to be a stronger measure among women, among voters of color, and younger voters. Partisan difference, not as surprising. Republicans are going to be the least likely to vote in favor, but frankly, at 60% among Republicans is not something to be sort of dismissed. That's a high level of support for Republicans, demonstrating that local ballot measures, which we see time and again, when local measures are being brought up, it often Republicans are going to respond differently because it is something for their own community, something local. The funds are controlled locally. They understand the purpose and value in a way that sometimes state measures are not strongly supported. But obviously, the base of the support for this measure is going to come from Democrats and a fair amount of independents as well. So you can see independents sort of split the difference between Democrats and Republicans at 70%. Time in the city, years living in the city, it correlates obviously with age. Younger people are going to have less time in the city. But if you have been a resident of Newman for 20 or fewer years, 3/4 vote yes, whereas those who are been residents longer term, 21 or more years, that's a drop in support down to 59%. So there's clearly a distinction there, a 15-point gap, obviously, and some of that correlates obviously with age, but it is something worth noting that the newer residents are going to be more likely to vote in favor. And then lastly, just showing you, didn't know if someone had a question?
No, we're good, Rick.
Okay, and just in terms of these flags, participation rates, you hit the 2/3 mark for the people who are 1 out of 4, and it's just something to consider, as I know, projecting forward when this ballot measure should be put on, if it's put on in a high propensity election or variety. So it's just some information for you to see. We also tested a couple different tax rates, actually lower tax rates, to see if that would move voter support. And what we actually found is we declined it slightly. I'd say it's statistically there's no meaning in it because we're only dropping several points from that initial 70% vote. But it is generally in the same place, but maybe a little softer. And what we often observe in these surveys is when we ask respondents to vote again at a lower threshold or a dollar amount, support can often go down as the public perceives, well, if you lower the dollar amount, that means we're going to lose something out of this. If I supported it, we should do it correctly and do the full program as opposed to, reduce the funding and not get everything that we think is important. So we do see a little drop in support. Marginal differences, not statistically meaningful, though. In terms of elements of the ballot measure, provisions that could be adopted by the city to write into the measure, we can see maintaining local control, keeping funds locally, keeping money away from Sacramento is one of the strongest incentives to support this measure. 73% say they are much more likely to vote in favor knowing that Sacramento is prohibited from taking any of the funds. So it's a really high intensity on that item, making the city eligible for state and federal matching grants. Again, 2/3, much more likely to support it knowing that. But a whole host of different potential provisions, whether it's online reports to view how funds are being used, prohibiting the tax rate from being increased without voter approval, possibly exempting low-income seniors from paying the tax, local control, all these items to demonstrate that funds are being used as correctly, that there's accountability or oversight, provide a great deal of incentive for your public to support this measure. Additional provisions, you can see here a little less supported, but still relatively strong items. A citizens oversight committee, for example, half say they'd be much more likely to support knowing that a citizens oversight committee would review how funds are used. We tested a sunset clause requiring the parcel tax expire after 20 years unless it is reapproved by local voters. Again, 47% say they'd be much more likely, 2/3 total more likely. It doesn't seem that this is something that your public feels strongly about, but for some people it's going to be incentive to support it. But you can see audits similarly test well, and then we also test required construction be delayed until after the state records a normal year of rainfall. Obviously, with an aquatic center, a pool, community pool, we're talking about water usage. And we thought that might be something that appealed to your community or something you wanted to at least get a sense of. And you can see it actually was the weakest element or provision that we tested. So while the drought is extremely top of mind concern to your public, the idea of not building or building this pool based on rainfall is not really something that is salient to your public. So in terms of testing, just general awareness of issues when it comes to pool and some other key community issues, there's a great deal of awareness that that the community pool has been closed for a number of years. 8 in 10 know this. And a lot of communities, when we do surveys like this and we ask a key issue, often there's the public sort of doesn't necessarily know what the issue at hand is and why the community might want to do something, or this question is sort of being put before them. Here, Newman residents are quite aware that the community has lacked a pool for many years. So that degree of community knowledge is strong. Most of your community as well, nearly 8 in 10 say it's accurate that the city is doing a good job conserving water. There isn't as much sense that some drownings show a need for swim lessons and water safety classes. It's a plurality, 45% say that's an accurate statement. Voters are split on whether or not the city provides residents with quality recreational programs. So that's sort of an interesting finding, that voters evenly divided as to whether the city's providing quality recreation programs suggests that in addition to their perceived need of additional funding, there is also this perceived perception that maybe we're lacking some of the recreational programs that we would want. Additionally, public is sort of split on whether or not city finances are well managed, but I would point out that a fair amount of those respondents are saying they don't know, 27%, that gray piece of the bar. So there's a lot of lack of awareness, which doesn't necessarily mean they think you're doing a bad job. They just honestly don't know. And then lastly on this list, that the state government has taken millions of dollars from the city that's supposed to be used in Newman for services. Again, a lack of knowledge and awareness. Interestingly, again, I sort of point back to several years ago, if we had asked this during sort of the height of the state budget crisis, when there was a lot of news and focus on how the state was taking money from local communities, that number would likely be pretty different. But it's been several years. The state budget is in a different place than it was, not just today, but several years ago. So there's less of that awareness. It's not a story that is being told a lot in the media these days. In terms of use and how funds raised by this potential ballot measure could be used, it's clear that priorities for the ballot measure are improving recreation programs. Most of the items on this slide relate back to recreational programs, whether it's health and fitness programs for adults and seniors, which is the top of the list and the highest level of extremely or very important, nearly 70%, right at that sort of vote total you get at the initial start of the initial start. So you can see strong degree of support for programs, providing swim lessons, water safety classes, the third one in, increasing recreational opportunities for Newman residents, for local youth recreation programs. It's a host of different ways the Aquatic Center can serve the recreational needs of the community. It's interesting, they're addressing the issue of water conservation and efficiency. Again, we saw earlier that the drought was a major issue for your public, so the fact that this can at least provide some sense of water conservation efficiency, obviously an important issue as well. The next set of slides simulate communication and education of the public, both for and against the ballot measure and why the Aquatic Center would make sense for your community. So on the side of saying this is a good idea, we presented several arguments. The program-based theme, and there's obviously a lot of words here, and don't want to bore everyone with reading through these, but each one provides sort of a specific thematic rationale as to why somebody might support this measure and think building an aquatic center is a good idea for the city of Newman. So the first one is about programs, how it'll benefit the community with different types of recreational opportunities. The second one is just there is a lack of community pool. It's been nearly a decade since the city of Newman has had a community pool. How property values will be impacted is the third statement on the list. Accountability, that the funds are going to be monitored, observed. People will have the right to see how funds are used in various audits and reports made public, and that all funds are used locally. And then a water efficiency statement as well was also provided. And all of these statements, frankly, test as persuasive arguments, as provide the information that would make somebody say, okay, that makes sense, that's a good rationale to support this measure, to think building a community pool is a good investment for Newman. There's clearly a couple statements here that are much more persuasive and impactful. The program-based statement, how the various recreational opportunities it provide, how community can use the pool and aquatic center. Also, the basic concept of no pool since 2006, that this is something our city lacks, that we've had in the past. We should have it today again. The benefit of property values. Those three statements sort of show a little more impact, as you can see, the very convincing percentage, that darker blue in the 40s and then 50%. So those are very impactful and persuasive statements. So it's not to say that accountability and water and efficiency are not that are unimportant to your community, but they just didn't have as much strength in terms of convincing arguments. I didn't put it in this statement because I want to be a briefer presentation. We did test an opposition statement saying we can't afford this type of tax. Community pool is not necessarily what we want to do. So we provided the other side as well, and you can see the opposition statement does bring support down to about, it stays at right around the 2/3 level, maybe drop a point or two, and the no vote comes up several points as well. But overall, your community is still highly supportive of this concept. There's going to be people who are going to want more information. They're going to need more details about the plan, about the program, what the aquatic center would look like. But they're generally receptive and respond well to the proposal. And that is sort of the summary of the survey results. Happy to answer any questions you may have or review additional data that you wanted to look at.
I'll turn it over to the council and see if anyone has any questions for Rick.
Okay, any council's questions? Jason?
I don't have any.
I don't have any.
Okay. Murray, next?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, Rick, you did a great job. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.
You have a good evening. Bye now.
You too. Take care.
Okay, so it is FM3, our consultant's recommendation that there is enough support in the community to move forward with this vote. So, as staff, what we're asking you is, in order to get a package ready for you to actually take the vote on whether or not to put this to the community, we're going to need to invest some time and energy and some money into this. And part of that is putting together a boundary. A CFD, you got to do a legal boundary. You have to do the final wording for the ballot. You have to do arguments in favor and support and do some other things on there. So if you're concurrent with the council or with our consultant's recommendation, we're just asking that you give an affirmative vote that you do support the consultant's recommendation, and understand the staff is going to be spending time on this in the next 3 to 4 months, getting a package ready for you so that you can ultimately vote on whether or not to put this on the ballot. With that also being said, we would probably then reach out to some of the community members that you selected to be on the committee and ask them to start putting together their, I'm going to call it a political action committee because that's lack of a better term, a committee that would support the measure on the private side. There are things that the private industry can do that the city cannot do. We can educate about what it is on there, but we cannot take a position either for or against the measure. So again, if you give your support to moving this to the next level, we'll probably reach out to some of the community members. I know 2 of your council members sit on that community member, and they're going to have to probably start drumming up some support for that. We would also, as staff, start reaching out and trying to form some partnerships. We are already in the grant writing process. We're going to be writing a $2 million grant application with the hopes of saying, we're going to apply for the grant contingent upon us passing a successful measure. So we're working with the grant people right now to see if they would willing to accept that as a successful application, or do we need to go through the vote first? And then we try to put together some private partnerships, some donations, some sponsorships, and try to raise some private money as well, grant money that would then we could show the community that you're not footing the whole bill for the aquatic center. You know, the idea would be to have at least $1 million on the table of people that are saying, and grants that said, look, if you vote yes, this $1 million will go to the aquatic center, thereby hoping to reduce your tax on there as well. So we would be putting that together in the next 3 to 4 months as well. So between moving forward with this measure and the annexation that's going to be occurring in the northwest quadrant, of which we're hoping to release the environmental impact report probably in the first quarter of calendar year 16. Those will pretty much be your two main projects that administration and planning would be working together on for the calendar year 16. So I'm open to having a discussion about this right now. If you have any questions of me, otherwise, again, we're just looking for a concurrence that you support this at this time, and are directing staff to put together a package for you that you can consider in the future for a measure for the November 16 ballot.
Based on the survey and people I've talked to, there's a strong interest for the community pool. So personally, I'd like to see it potentially go to a vote for the citizens to make that decision whether to go forward with it or not. I'm in support of it.
I would concur with Casey.
I agree.
Okay, so and we don't need a formal vote today. I can take your polling there. That so over the next couple months, staff will be putting together a package for you. We'll work with our consultants. We'll work with our legal counsel in terms of there's a lot of nuances of putting together what's called a community facilities district, which is ultimately going to be the vessel for which we fund this endeavor, and it'll have a component that one goes towards construction of the facility, but there's also a maintenance component that goes along with that. And so we'll get all those pieces together for you, so that way you could have a complete package to again review and decide whether or not you want to put that on the November ballot. But that concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions that you may have at this time.
I'm good. Thank you for your work so far.
Thank
We're
you.
moving ahead.
Moving ahead.
Yeah, great presentation, Mike. I think that survey really gives us something to be excited about, because there is the potential. We can make it happen if we do our work. I mean, we're just going to have to get out there and work hard.
Bob, Mayor, I think you're correct. There's support out there, and you as the council members who have walked the precincts when you were getting elected told us that. And so we put something together. The polling's coming back and, just verifying what you've already told us. But the hard work starts now. 2/3 vote is a big hurdle. But, there's a lot of good messages out there. It does positively impact property values. There are reports that say when you have these recreational amenities in your community, your property values go up because people want to live there. I think overall, there's a benefit to it for everybody.
Thank you. Item 11, District 5 Supervisor, Jim DiMartini.
Good evening, Mayor Martina, members of the council. Great to be back. I was just at your Christmas tree lighting a few days ago. It was a really nice event. You got the perfect plaza for it now, and the weather was great, so I really had a nice time. One of the things I wanted to tell you is we got the task force got its calendar done, and I brought a box of them, and I left in your hallway because your door was closed to your office. So I thought it came out really nice, as always. This year's theme was health is a family effort. So we always do a health and exercise theme of some sort. Changes every year. This year, for the calendar, we have 13, on the calendar. One is a grand prize, and then one for each month. And 7 of the 13 entries were from the city of Newman. So that's the best you've done, Sarah. That's more than half. So anyway, I'm going to start giving out the awards. Tomorrow I'm going to Gustine, and they had one winner, and then Patterson on Friday, and then the Newman School Board on Monday evening to present the awards, because we offer the kids $50 gift certificate for the winning entries. And we had probably about 400 entries this year. So we really had to sift through them. You know, it was 5 people doing the judging. So it took us a little while. So anyway, we got it done. I'm really happy with how it turned out. So we've got this done, and we'll be presenting the awards now from starting tomorrow. The next meeting of the task force will be January 14th. It will be at Gustine City Hall. And there really isn't very much going on this month. It's December. The government stuff is really starting to slow down a little bit. I would expect after next week there will be next to nothing done. We just have one more meeting ourselves at the end of the year next week. Well, I was interested in their survey for your swimming pool, and that looked fairly encouraging. And I think that I shouldn't have any trouble getting $100,000 from Stanislaus County to put in to your campaign, assuming that it passes, you know. And so, plus I could probably do other things for you too, but I can essentially guarantee you $100,000. So hope you get that underway. But as your city manager said, the real work really has to start now, because you just can't throw that thing out in the ballot and not do any work to get any public support. And you know, I would really emphasize getting donations from members of the community or businesses or service clubs would be essential part of, and not having, you know, the parcel tax have to pay 100% of it. Showing community support is really important. Anyway, good luck. The results really look encouraging. Okay, that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for all the support for our city. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for coming to our tree lighting. That was nice of you to be there.
Yeah, that was nice.
Appreciate
You had a
Yeah.
perfect evening for it too. So I just love your plaza. I think that really makes your downtown. It's just a nice place with your West Side Theater and your plaza. You really got something really nice there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 12, items from the city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. First off, I'd like to just thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting together the tree lighting ceremony. It was well attended, a lot of booths out there, and I think most of them did pretty well out there. Public Works, the plaza looks great. Want to thank Susan Mattos, Carmen Anaya, and also the Dyke family from Moonshine Dairy. They donated a lift that allowed our people to decorate the tree. So without that lift, that job became a lot easier with the lift that they had as opposed to ours. So it was a community effort to get everything going and out there. So we really appreciate that. You had your audit tonight, and we were a negative 150, just over 150. But you got to remember that included the monies to do the Louis J. Newman building as well. So that was a big project. So you had originally talked about we were going to look at borrowing some funds from the enterprise fund to pay for that. But after the finance director and I looked at it and looked at where we were financially, we just decided, why are we going to pay interest on that? We might as well just pay it off now. We had the cash. And so that's why you had the negative 153 this year. But we're still down below over 250 from where we were projected to be. So it's a great start. And at $2.6 million in reserve and a $4 million budget, we have very, very sustainable reserves at this time. So we did have some final chief interviews today. We had 2 candidates that were left. Chief Brazier and I did the interviews. He and I are going to reconvene at the end of this week and just kind of let it rest a little bit and then come back and reevaluate and kind of make some decisions from there. It would be our hope that we would have somebody online in January of 16 and allow Mel to go ahead and retire. He's been itching to get that done, so we're a lot closer. The 2-on-2 that was scheduled for next week is canceled. The meeting's not until January on that. And since this is our last city council meeting for the year, I just wanted to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Mayor, council members. I'd like to start first with sending out thoughts and prayers to Sergeant Fielder of Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department, who was tragically killed last week on his way home from work. Not only to his family, but to the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Departments for their loss. It's a tough time for them, I'm sure, and for all of the law enforcement community around. With that, we move on to a little happier note. Last Friday evening, Ashley Williams, Officer Williams, and Officer Finucci took 2 children from the community for the 3rd consecutive year to Shop with a Cop. So I'd like to thank Officer Williams, especially this has been her program. She finds the money every year from Walmart, donates $1,000 to our community to take children. The Family Resource Center identified 2 children this year to take, so they got to go spend the evening with cops and shop for their family and for themselves for Christmas. So it was a good event. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have one. Chief, in light of things that have happened this past week, I sat there and thought, could this ever happen in our community? And I thought, never know. Hopefully never. But, and I think you all know what I'm talking about. But, so my thought was, do our officers have the training and equipment to handle a situation like that?
You know, we do have the training. We've all been in training. Are we equipped with some of the tactical equipment that an extended operation would need? No, but our, Modesto Police Department and Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department are, and by the time those events are tragic and they're happening right now. So you don't have time, even if we had the equipment, to get the equipment there. You're going to be responding from the office, or, in a community like ours, if something was to happen during the day, it would be probably the 1 day shift officer, myself, and the lieutenant responding. We've gone through the training for those type of incidents. We have some pretty good tactical equipment that we carry in cars to minimize what tactical equipment the suspects or bad guys would have. It'd probably be a fair fight, I guess, would be the best way to describe it. It's just a different mindset you have to bring to the table. I mean, you're asking officers to run towards danger when we're telling everyone else to run away from danger. And that's what we train to do. So training, yes. Equipment, no, we don't have a SWAT team. No, we don't have a armored vehicle, but those are readily accessible in driving time. And so,
is there any equipment that we could equip our officers with to at least respond?
My answer I would love to give you is yes, I'd love to have more equipment, but I don't necessarily know that we are that under-equipped where we have ballistic helmets, we have things that we carry in our trunk, we carry shields. Do we have the stuff that an entry team would take in a rapid situation? Absolutely, we have it. If you want to throw more money at me for more equipment, we'd be gladly to spend it for you.
He doesn't have any.
Does that answer your,
thank you very much. I'm just concerned about our community. That's all.
Yeah, and we've looked into, Sonora Police Department is going to be hosting a training that's coming up, and I'm trying to get our school resource officer into that, because although this one didn't take place at a school setting, most of them do take place, if you've noticed, at some type of school setting. So we have an action plan with the school district. We go through drills. We did one probably 5 years ago out here. I don't know if all of you are familiar with that. At Orstenba High School, we had some role players come in, and we actually went through one of those trainings. So we have the training. It's just hopefully we'll never need to use it.
I hope so. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Nothing to report tonight.
Nothing?
Just keeping busy.
Well, go out and write some more grants.
Working on that as well.
You're working on that. And Lou?
I got nothing tonight, but happy to answer
Nothing
any
tonight,
questions you
but
have.
a great report, huh?
Yeah, it was good.
Absolutely. Good job, Lou.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that makes the city so proud is when we can say financially, we're sound. And I know it takes a lot of people to make that happen, but thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yeah, good evening. Just a couple of items to update. Water conservation, which is very important as you saw in the slide. So far, I mean, as of December 1st, 2015, we have achieved 20% water conservation, so which exceeding 24% requirement. So we are on the right track in terms of water conservation. And the second item is that to update our SCADA system for monitoring our water system, sewer pump, and the water pumps. So contractor finished most of the job, but still we are working on some calibration, which is the last one. So I would like to update our new technology. The city purchased the iPad. So in the past, whenever we have some alarm, we had to send our crew, that's overtime. But now our superintendent carrying those iPad 24/7, any false alarm occur, we just reset the system. Because most of the alarm is like just a false alarm. So we don't have to send our crew, but we had to do that in the past. But now, because of new technology, we don't have to send our crew, just control everything throughout the iPad. The last thing is regarding El Nino. Everybody concerning
It's coming.
about the El Nino is coming up. So however, I want to say that we are ready. So our staff keep working on that, keep watching on it. So I want to say that we are ready. That's all I have. I can answer to any question you may have.
Any question, concern? The only question I
Yes.
have, and I know that we're really up to a certain point, and then after that, it's in the hands, it's not in your hands anymore. I know if we get too many inches of rain in 24 hours, no matter how we prepared, we can't handle it.
But still, at least we can respond, we can
Right.
notify our residents so that they can evacuate, just in case that types of
Yeah.
event
Thank you for
occur.
being prepared.
Yeah, thank you.
Casey?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. Real
Yes.
quick, jumping back to you, Chief, on the equipment. Do you guys have ceramic ballistic vests? The reason I ask is I know my department, we were issued them about a year ago, and they protect against the, rifle rounds a little bit better than the handgun round, than our duty vests.
No, we don't.
Okay. That's something that I think would be very important. What the ballistic vests are, they're what the military wears overseas, but they protect against rifle rounds. So when you do have an active shooter situation, whether it be at school or anything else, that's not something they wear all the time. It's something they keep in their trunk with their ballistic helmet, and they put it on over their uniform and go into a hot call. And they're they'll save a life. So they're very, very inexpensive for what they would do rather than losing somebody. So I don't know if we can look into that. Maybe you can look into possible prices for those for us.
Absolutely.
Maybe
bring
reach
that back
out
for mid-year.
Yeah, reach out to Modesto. We can look into that because we just purchased a large amount of them. One other thing, I'd like to welcome Alex to the recreation as a recreation commissioner. Kind of was in there real quick and amongst other stuff. Thank you for applying and welcome. And that's all I have. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you. Nick?
I have nothing tonight.
Murray?
Just congratulations again to the two people in our water department for their diligence and efforts toward improving the quality of service in our community. And we really appreciate their efforts and your continued support for them.
Thank you.
I would concur with that. I think employee recognition is so important because it sends a good message to everyone. They've done a good job, and as Michael has said, that we don't really know what their jobs are, but every time you turn that tap on and you get fresh water, and it's something you can drink and it's safe and everything, then you can thank people like that have made that possible. So that's really important. And Alex, thank you for, coming forward and volunteering. volunteers are so important to our city. We just wouldn't be able to run so many of these programs without volunteers like you, so thank you so much. And the last thing I'd like to mention was, we had the Christmas tree lighting, and every time we go to the plaza, or I go to the plaza, I'm so proud of that area. It's just perfect for that kind of venue. And of course, I have to thank Susan Mattis. We have a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, and she made it beautiful. I mean, she really did, and I don't know how she did it, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful evening. I thought the addition of the parade was nice, and the kids, I think everyone enjoyed it, and so it was a wonderful evening. And
It was a great turnout, too.
yeah, it was a great turnout. But anyway, that's all I have, and I'd like to ask for adjournment.
Motion made.
Second?
Motion made second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you so much.